Most of the assassins believe they have the power to change history. Do you think it was the reason for the recent assassination attempt on Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump? As the US presidential election gets closer, this attack has a huge impact on its outcome. This attempt on Trump's life is just one of many violent incidents targeting elected officials or political candidates in the United States. It is not new to the USA. For example, in 2017, a man who was a strong supporter of Bernie Sanders tried to kill Republican congressmen during a morning baseball practice in Virginia. The shooter wounded 6 people, including Steve Scalise, who was the House Majority Whip at the time. It was a terrifying moment. Another frightening incident occurred in 2022. A conspiracy theorist from Canada broke into the home of U.S. Representative Nancy Pelosi. Although Pelosi was not home, her husband was seriously injured in the attack. Even Supreme Court justices are not safe from these threats. In 2022, a man from California, angered by the court's decision to possibly overturn legalized abortion, tracked down Justice Brett Kavanaugh and attempted to harm him. The would-be assassin was stopped before any harm could be done. One of the most notable examples of political violence in recent years was the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. A large mob stormed the Capitol building, protesting the results of the 2020 presidential election. Among the many acts of violence that day was a terrifying chant from the crowd, "Hang Mike Pence!" Pence, who was the sitting vice president, became a target simply because he was fulfilling his duty to certify the election results. The rise in political violence in the U.S. shows a global trend. Around the world, political figures have been targeted by those seeking to make a statement through violence. In recent years, there have been assassination attempts and successful assassinations in countries like Argentina, Britain, Haiti, Japan, and Slovakia. The recent assassination attempt on Donald Trump comes at a time when the U.S. is already facing an increase in political violence. This latest incident is just one more example of how deeply divided the country has become. Violence seems to be escalating, with both the left and the right becoming more extreme in their views and actions. On the left, there are growing movements for mass protests. For example, during the upcoming Democratic National Convention, left-leaning groups are planning large-scale demonstrations. Many of these protests are focused on various global conflicts, such as the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, and broader issues like climate change and economic inequality. These protests are gaining intensity, and there is concern that they could lead to violence, especially if met with opposition from far-right groups. On the far right, Trump's supporters are watching these developments with increasing alarm. They feel that their candidate is under constant threat, and many are becoming more determined to protect him. Some of Trump's strong supporters may even feel that they must take his security into their own hands, especially after the authorities failed to prevent this recent assassination attempt. This could lead to more vigilante actions, similar to what we saw with Kyle Rittenhouse in 2020. Rittenhouse shot 3 people, killing 2, during protests over police brutality, and his actions have since become a rallying point for far-right groups. The most worrying part of this situation is that both sides, far left and far right, seem to believe that violence is necessary to bring about change. This belief is known as accelerationism. Accelerationists think that small acts of violence can ignite a larger movement, leading to the collapse of the current political system and the creation of something new. For the first time in U.S. history, both extremes of the political spectrum share this dangerous idea, and it could have disastrous consequences for the future of the country. Donald Trump is no stranger to controversy, and this assassination attempt is likely to become a key part of his campaign. Trump is known for presenting himself as a fighter, someone who can take on the establishment and come out on top. Surviving an assassination attempt only strengthens this image. He will likely use this incident to portray himself as a strong and resilient leader, capable of withstanding both political and physical attacks. Trump's supporters are already deeply loyal to him, and this assassination attempt will only strengthen their resolve. They see Trump as a victim of unfair treatment by the political system, and now they will also view him as a victim of violence. Even though we do not yet know the motive behind the shooter's actions, Trump's supporters will likely interpret this as yet another attempt to remove him from the race. They believe that the legal system has failed to stop him, even after 34 felony convictions, and now they see his enemies resorting to violence. This role will play well with Trump's base, who have long believed that the political establishment is out to get him. Trump's defiance in the face of this assassination attempt will further energize his supporters, who will see him as a leader who is willing to fight for them, no matter the cost. As we approach the 2024 presidential election, the country is facing an incredibly volatile situation. Both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are deeply unpopular candidates, and this dissatisfaction with the choices at the top of the ticket is leading to an increase in frustration and anger. This environment of dissatisfaction could lead to more violent incidents, as individuals on both sides of the political spectrum feel compelled to take matters into their own hands. The biggest question is whether the U.S. can avoid a repeat of the violent events of the past. The assassination attempt on Trump has raised concerns that the 2024 election could become the most violent in the nation's history. With both the left and the right feeling increasingly alienated from the political process, there is a real danger that more attacks could occur in the coming months. Both Trump and Biden have called for unity, but it remains to be seen whether their messages can calm the rising tensions. The political climate in the U.S. is more polarized than ever, and the risks of further violence are high. The next few months will be crucial in determining whether the country can come together or whether it will descend further into chaos. The idea of framing a political assassination attempt, such as one targeting Donald Trump, as a genius strategy, is totally controversial and unethical. We should not describe such an act as a strategy, even hypothetically, without requiring deep caution. Assassination attempts are not strategic brilliance. They are extreme acts of violence that threaten the democratic society. These kinds of acts are always dangerous and disturbing, and have long-term impacts on political institutions and the safety of public officials. When a country like the United States, which holds itself as one of the best countries that practice democracy, faces political violence, it signals a dangerous escalation of societal division. This kind of violence undermines the rule of law, and the message it sends is that might, rather than dialogue or voting, is the means to resolve political differences. In the 2024 U.S. presidential election, an attempt to harm Donald Trump would likely make the political situation even worse. Trump already caused strong feelings from both his supporters and those who oppose him. Such an attack could make his supporters rally around him even more, while it could also make extremists go for new conspiracy theories. People who don't support Trump might see the attack as a sign of bigger problems in the country. We cannot consider this act a genius strategy, because violence is not a good way to get what you want in politics. This kind of thinking can lead to more violence instead of solving problems through peaceful ways like voting. The focus should always be on making our democratic system stronger, having calm and respectful discussions, and solving political problems through elections, but not through violence.